I paid off the $370K mortgage, but my mom handed the house to my sister. I still remember the exact moment I found out. It was a Sunday afternoon in early October, the kind where the sunlight makes everything look softer than it really is. I was standing in the kitchen of the house I had just finished paying off, the house I sacrificed my 20s for, holding a bottle of sparkling cider because I thought we were celebrating. Instead, I learned I had just funded my sister's future. Let me rewind. My name is Ava Thompson. I'm 32 years old. I live in Dallas, Texas. And for the last 7 years, every bonus, every overtime shift, every freelance contract I took on went toward one thing: saving my childhood home. The mortgage was $370,000 when Dad passed away. $370,000. Mom couldn't afford it on her own. My younger sister, Lily, certainly couldn't. She was still chasing dreams, influencer branding, failed Etsy shops, boutique ideas that never made it past Instagram mood boards. But me, I was the responsible one. I had a corporate finance job. I understood numbers. I understood debt. And I understood what losing that house would do to my mother. So I stepped up. I refinanced my own condo. I emptied my savings. I postponed vacations. I didn't date seriously because I was too busy working. I told myself it was temporary. That one day when the house was free and clear, I'd finally breathe. And in September, I made the final payment. I wired the last $18,642.17 to the bank. Mortgage paid in full. I cried that night, not because it was hard, but because I felt proud. I saved our family. Or so I thought. The celebration that was. Mom insisted on hosting a small dinner to celebrate everything you've done, sweetheart. Those were her words. Lily showed up late, of course. Designer bag, fresh highlights, talking about some brand collaboration that would totally blow up soon. I smiled politely. I always did. Dinner was normal at first: pot roast, wine, toasts. Mom stood up and tapped her glass. "Ava," she said, voice trembling, "you've been such a blessing to this family." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. "And that's why," she continued, "I've decided it's time to secure Lily's future." My smile faltered. Secure Lily's future. Mom pulled a folder from the dining table. Legal documents. "I've transferred the deed," she said softly. "The house is now in Lily's name." The room went silent. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I genuinely thought it was a joke. "Wait," I said. "What?" Lily looked uncomfortable, but not surprised. Mom continued, as if explaining something simple. "You're stable, Ava. You have a career. You'll be fine anywhere. Lily needs this house more than you do." The words didn't register at first. "I paid the mortgage," I whispered. "And we're grateful," Mom replied quickly. "But it was always the family home." Family home. The one I paid $370,000 to save. And now it belonged to my sister. The realization. Here's the worst part. They had already signed everything. Weeks ago, while I was proudly wiring the final payment, my mother had been sitting in a lawyer's office preparing to give the house to Lily. No discussion. No warning. No thank you contract. Nothing. Just trust. My trust. "Why wouldn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice shaking. Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. "Because I knew you. Overreact." Overreact. I stood up slowly. "You used me." "No," she snapped. "Don't twist this. You offered to help." "I offered to help save the house, not donate it." Lily finally spoke. "Ava, you make 6 figures. You don't even need it." Need it? It wasn't about need. It was about respect. It was about fairness. It was about the fact that I sacrificed years of my life. And they treated it like pocket change. The breaking point. I left that night without dessert. I drove back to my condo in silence. And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry over what my sister had done. I cried over what my mother had done. Because Lily being selfish. That was predictable. But Mom choosing her. After everything. That broke something inside me. The research. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Instead, I pulled every document I had. Bank statements. Wire confirmations. Email threads. There was no written agreement that the house would be mine. I had trusted family. Huge mistake. But something bothered me. When Dad passed, the house had technically been in both Mom and Dad's names. Which meant there had been probate. And I had paid the mortgage during that process. I called a real estate attorney. Just to ask questions. What happens, I said carefully, if someone pays off a mortgage but isn't on the deed? There was a pause. Well, the lawyer said, that depends. Were the payments considered a gift or an investment? Investment. That word hit differently. I hadn't signed anything saying it was a gift. There were texts from Mom thanking me for saving the house. There were emails where she said, "We'll figure out ownership once things settle." Ownership. Once things settle. The lawyer asked, "Do you have proof there was an understanding?" I did. Screenshots. Messages. Voice recordings. I wasn't stupid. I was just trusting. And trust doesn't mean unprepared. The shift. For the first time since Sunday, I felt something other than heartbreak. I felt clarity. Mom thought I'd just swallow it. That I'd accept being the responsible daughter who fixes everything quietly. But something inside me had changed. I didn't want the house anymore. I wanted justice. And if justice came with a little revenge, I wasn't above that. The family group chat. 3 days later, Mom texted, "Sweetheart, please don't make this bigger than it is. We're family." Family. That word again. So I replied in the group chat, "Mom, Lily, me. I spoke to an attorney today." Typing bubbles appeared instantly. "Mom, why would you do that?" "Lily, are you seriously threatening us?" Threatening? No. I was finally valuing myself. I paid $370,000. We need to discuss reimbursement or legal equity. Mom called me immediately. I let it ring. Then I texted, "We can handle this privately or in court." Silence. For the first time in my life, they didn't know what to say. The truth about Lily. Here, something you should understand about my sister. She's not evil. She's entitled. There's a difference. She grew up being told she was special, creative, sensitive, destined for something big. I grew up being told to be practical, responsible, helpful. So I became the fixer, the one who solves problems. And Lily became the one everyone protects. But I wasn't protecting her anymore. The twist I didn't expect. A week later, I received a certified letter from Lily's attorney. She had already consulted one. The letter stated that my payments were voluntary contributions toward family expenses and that there was no contractual obligation for reimbursement. They were preparing to shut me out legally. My hands shook as I read it. They really thought I'd walk away, that I'd be too embarrassed to fight, too loyal, too scared. They didn't know something. I work in finance. I understand leverage. And I had more than they realized. The leverage. During the refinance process years ago, Mom had temporarily added me to a co-signer agreement for a short-term restructuring. My name had been attached to certain legal filings. And guess what? That created a paper trail. A very interesting one. If I contested the deed transfer on grounds of unjust enrichment and implied ownership agreement, it could freeze the property. Which meant Lily couldn't sell it, couldn't refinance it, couldn't use it as collateral. The house would become a legal nightmare. And lawsuits. They get expensive. Very expensive. More expensive than Lily could afford. The decision. That night, I sat in my quiet condo. No family photos on the walls. No childhood memories in the rooms. Just silence. And I asked myself one question. Do I want the house? Or do I want them to understand what they did? The answer surprised me. I didn't want the house. I wanted accountability. And if that meant dragging this through court, so be it.